if you've got a generation of marketers who are shaking their fist at those gamers, playing in their parents' basement, you're never going to break through. And so I think a lot of that is generationally we're maturing, and people that are making decisions are native gamers, they're digital natives, and they're in positions of power to make decisions. And I think that's a big part of it. I think it's so important to create a segmentation that's inclusive of gaming. And if your segmentation isn't smart, then you shouldn't be test and learning, right? You shouldn't be spending any money in gaming. And I'd extend that to sports, entertainment as well. If you don't have the stuff built in, you shouldn't be doing it, and don't fake it. If you test and learn, it means you're going to be in second place. It's really not that fucking complicated.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Joe Condon. Today, I'm joined by Tiago Correa. And our guest for today is Brent Koning, head of gaming for Dentsu. Brent, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming along. Maybe just to set the scene, would love to run through your journey, obviously, to getting to Dentsu and what that looks like. And then maybe we'll dive in a little bit more around what your kind of day-to-day is now.
Perfect. Well, I started in the video game industry almost on accident. I was working for a small little agency that was doing social media for Microsoft. So we managed the social media accounts for Zune, rest in peace, MSN, rest in peace, Xbox, still going, but started really there and got cut my teeth on working on video game properties in the era when Facebook was new, Twitter was new, everything. We signed up the Twitter account on our personal emails and stuff for Microsoft, literally starting at zero. We had a ticker going. Then met all these great people that were just doing all this awesome video game work. And I played games my whole life, had a couple little micro obsessions in wrestling video games and sports video games, which then kind of suit me later in life. But that was really where I started, which was something completely new, right on the cutting edge. And again, this is a long time ago. I'm going to date myself. You can see my own gray hairs. But that was really how I got in. And I think once I was in, I realized that, oh my gosh, this is a business. This is an actual much to all of our, chagrin, we can work in these spaces. Got recruited into the Microsoft team, started working in a little bit of retail side, a little business affairs. Spent a really good chunk of time trying to find new businesses within video games, and esports came, bubbled up. Microsoft wasn't quite ready to kind of jump all the way in on the esports bandwagon. And so kind of found myself trying to find new things in new spaces, which is ultimately how I ended up at EA. Was the first employee of the FIFA esports team, now obviously called EAFC. Really kind of worked our way through that whole madness with licensing and FIFA, and obviously it's no longer called FIFA, so it was part of all that. Moved to London. We had a bunch of stuff going on here in Europe, and then Dentsu came calling and was we don't really know what we want to do. However, we know that we want to have a relationship with brands. We want to have a relationship with consumers. Is there a way to kind of make this work? And so gaming kind of sits at that little concentric circle spot. And so that's kind of how it got here, which is a little different from what we're doing today.
I assume everyone that will listen will know what Dentsu is and what Dentsu does, but maybe we could dive into your specific area around gaming and how that ties into the wider kind of business.
Yeah. I mean, candidly, I'm not sure everyone would know what Dentsu is. I certainly knew Dentsu as a rights holder. They're obviously very involved in the Olympics, very involved in football. My world was in the football world. So they represented the Japanese football league when I was at EA. So I worked with the Dentsu team, really not the Japanese football team. That's how close, Dentsu was involved. So, as an agency, massive, 70,000 people in every single major market in the world, literally every single one. We were of the big six, we're one of the massive holdcos. And so what that means for gaming was really unknown. We'd worked in Japan with video game, IP and, obviously Japanese developers and publishers as clients, but not really as a vertical within the business. And so we have three kind of core pillars. It's simple agency stuff. So just agency services, which is really focused around, serving a brief, serving a client. media buys, campaigns, things like that. Just kind of normal run-of-the-mill agency stuff. We then like build global solutions that are activated regionally. So if we want a relationship with Riot Games, right, we create a global framework and deal, and then we can activate it within the regions. Within that little vertical, we also do loads of consulting, most of which we don't really talk about. We're not a big press release house, more like just talking about the business. Yeah. And then the final thing is we make games. So we've got a little studio in Australia. It's called SMG Studio. They just launched, a little plug, they just launched Lego Party with an 80+ Metacritic.
Any platform in specific?
No, I kind of do everything. They even do some like watch development for the Google wearables division. Like they kind of do everything all the way up through PC and Nintendo and all the platforms. So that's kind of how we operate. But really, we're trying to find the relationships between brands and fans, and that's really kind of like a fandom strategy is like our baseline for how we operate.
Are the games that you're developing as well through that studio based predominantly on the relationships between brands and fans?
Yeah, I mean, arguably, well, like you look at the intersection of sports, entertainment, and gaming, right? And fandom is obviously the kind of common denominator. It largely depends. Actually, the SMG business was an ad tech platform first, and then kind of evolved into making own games, both IP and original IP, established IP and original IP. And so, I think the media holdcos just have never really known what to do with gaming. Like there's our competitors run media campaigns for every single gaming brand, both endemic and non-endemic. And our position is that, strategy needs to underpin everything. Not all companies feel like that. And so now they're kind of catching up. It's kind of funny. You feel like you're talking into or listening into the mirror sometimes, as they say. Like, wait a second, where did you guys get that? So everyone's kind of growing wiser and smarter because brands really make sure they're making the right decision in their media spend largely.
We're talking about people getting smarter, but I guess it's been a journey to even get to that point. And I guess a lot of internal or kind of client education around why even think about games. I guess, people have got their strategies that they've been working off of, or their channels that they've been working off for such a long time. How hard has it been for you to kind of, knock down that door and get people really understanding the channel of games?
Yeah, I mean, really hard. Like probably the most difficult part of the role. It's like, it's not even knocking down the door of gaming. It's like, you got to build the house. Then once the house is built, then you got to knock on the door, right? The challenge I think you find, and this is kind of an existential question that it's a great format to talk about on a podcast, to be honest. Think about just, I kind of coined it the get off my lawn proverb, right? If you've got a generation of marketers who are shaking their fist at those gamers, playing in their parents' basement, you're never going to break through, right? But as that generation kind of graduates into like an executive leadership roles and they start becoming more impactful at agencies and more impactful at conferences and more impactful like productions and things like that, as that grows and changes, the literal change takes place. And that's a generational change. I joke around that I'm people are like, oh, how old are you? And what generation do you belong to? Right. I say I'm an Oregon Trail. I'm the Oregon Trail generation. Right. So you've got this kind of slim. Do you even know what that means?
No idea.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know what I mean?
I know Oregon Trail. I played Oregon Trail back in the day.
Okay. Where were you born? I have curiosity.
87.
Okay. And where?
Portugal.
Okay.
But the reason is why I had an Oregon Trail in my hand-me-down computer from my cousin.
Oh.
1987 Amstrad. So
there you go. Nice. So Oregon Trail was a game that was basically in the US, was in every single school. And it was one of the free games that come, I believe the developer, MECC, I think MEC was the developer. I have to go back. I should know that. I don't. But it was in every single school and it was on every single computer. And at the time, Apple was just giving computers to educate all the education sector. So it was wild. So it's like an Apple IIgs is what it was on. And like, that was like the precursor to the classic. So if you start to look at the lineage of Apple products, now I'm really dating myself. But like, if you had this Oregon Trail native, if you're an Oregon Trail generation, you've known a world without the internet. Like I'm not a digital native, right? And so it's weird when you start thinking about that type of like philosophy. Apply that to marketing now, not just games. So take the step back a little bit. You apply that to marketing. I am friends with CMOs of really important companies. Before, we used to be, peers. We weren't executives in this space. We were peers, and we kind of grew up in this space. So as people kind of graduate into these like roles, fundamentally marketing is shifting. And when you look at media spend, it's why gaming spend is continuing to increase. I think we'll see at the beginning of next year what that looks like. But I think you're going to see a big spend at holiday, and you're going to see this kind of quoted 5%. We use this number, like only 5% of gaming or media spent on gaming. That number will have increased. I don't know if it's by 0.01 or 10%. It will have changed. And so I think a lot of that is generationally we're maturing, and people that are making decisions are native gamers. They're digital natives, and they're in positions of power to like make decisions. And I think that's a big part of it. So there's nobody shaking their fist saying, get off my lawn. It's like, why isn't the gaming strategy integrated into your overall like marketing and media mix? That is critical. I think it's a big change in, how spend will be kind of categorized moving forward.
And do you think that even though they are digital natives and they've played Oregon Trail or other games throughout their childhood and bring that vast wealth of knowledge into the professions, do you think that there's still a little bit of disparity as to how they approach TV and other mediums versus gaming from an advertisement perspective?
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? We've seen this kind of flow. Kind of think of it as like a front of the house and back of the house, right? The strategy development and marketing, and I've spoken about this before, you and I have discussed this several times, which is look at social media. Social media is the best example. I think it's almost like for like in the kind of curve and the trajectory. So if your marketing mix used to just be your marketing plan and then your social media plan, right? And you'd have sometimes separate media plans even, right? And as media became smarter and more tech driven, and the Googles, the Amazons, Trade Desk, like as they got smarter, all that stuff moved into your marketing mix. If you left out social media in a marketing plan today, you'd be instantly fired, right? I think the logic holds true with gaming as well, right? Gaming needs to be integrated, and you need to have an integrated strategy into your marketing mix. And I think that's part of it. But as you start to look at it, it's like, well, wait a second. If we spend 1 point different over here and place that over here, you're in a position to actually make some pretty categorically big shifts in your plans. And I hold by this, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this believe this as well. I believe gaming spend is better and smarter and wiser and more effective, and time spent is just like, massively larger than some of these other spends. And so as you start to spend a little more, you start to get the traction, and then it starts to make sense. And then, all of a sudden, you see that start to tick up and up and up and up. So I think it's kind of both sides of that.
Can we maybe talk about what exactly gaming offers advertisers versus those channels? So is it the more interactivity? Is it better measurement? Is it better targeting? What is, gaming offering that those other mediums can't?
I'm going to be slightly provocative here. I think it's all the same shit. Everything's the same. You're always going to have a smarter way of measuring it. You're always going to have these, there's going to be another company tomorrow, and there was one yesterday, and there's going to be one in 3 days around, we do things smarter, and we do this, and we use AI, or we don't. It's organic. That's always going to change. You're always going to have change. The only thing consistent will be that change in the media space. What's just not is time spent. And I think that's the common, through line through all of the gaming principles. It cuts through. That's why I believe gaming is the most valuable form of media. It's just purely time spent. So you could say, I watch a ton of sport. Great. Tell me how much it costs to get into the Premier League package on Sky, because it's a lot, right? But tell me how much it costs to get into that same package with EA, as an example, on FC, or 2K with basketball, right? And then you have the ability to be creative around that. And so I just think it's more valuable time spent. Also, the second screen phenomenon in sports watching, right, is it's decreasing time spent watching and, increasing time spent on apps and, ancillary programs. And so, excuse me, I think you have, it'll be interesting to see the trajectory of how that changes. over time. But I really truly believe it's just time spent. I mean, I start when I get to speak at conferences and stuff. I always start with raise your hand if you consider yourself a gamer. 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5, 10, whatever it is, people raise their hand. And then I ask the follow-up question is, what were you doing on the transportation before you got here? And the reality is then everyone kind of looks down and raises their hand. It's if you play a game, then I consider you a gamer. And as a marketer, you're eligible to be marketed to. So it's that's how I kind of piece all that together.
So you think that there's an arbitrage between the value of the opportunity of advertising in gaming versus other mediums for now, right? That's obviously something that is clearly temporary, because if that arbitrage gets found out, values will be brought back to equilibrium. Yeah. Is that correct?
I mean, this is a trillions of dollars industry, right? So the aircraft carrier is very hard to move. However, well, yeah, I think the short answer is yes. I do believe that, right? I mean, I believe that you have we inherently as marketers, you have the ability to go and bring as an agency, so agency marketing, we have the ability to kind of steer our clients in the right direction. And again, if the value continues to stay what it is, and you have all the measurement, again, I'm not knocking any of those things. I agree with you, by the way. I think, yes, there's going to be great measurement and awareness and all these different things. Everything my company works on as well. I'm not saying those things are wrong. What I'm saying is if gaming is the baseline best value, then I just think that will increase. And that doesn't mean that other things are decreasing. It just means that that should be a priority as we start to piece it all together.
Because we're talking about turning that aircraft and kind of helping guide clients or brands through a space that they're perhaps not familiar around, what are the different ways that brands can get involved in gaming? And gaming is a big word because there's so many different ways for them to kind of get involved. And on one of our previous episodes, we were just chatting with Monster as well. And for them, they're working with creators, they're working with different genres and different titles, all with very, very different audiences below them. So I guess, how are you kind of helping steer clients, or what would your advice be for brands around, what are the channels or mediums or activations that, you're finding success in the moment?
So again, for the sake of being provocative, what's this podcast rated? Can I swear?
Yeah, fine.
It's really not that fucking complicated.
Yeah.
When you build a segmentation for your marketing mix currently, right, you're looking at all of these different inputs. You're looking at infinity inputs and you're building segments. Some people even name the segments. It's Bob and Sarah and, Jamil. And you have your proper segments, right? Those segments are created on data, and those inputs are created to go and make a really informed decision about how you're going to go and create the opportunities. So when you create those segments, it's what? Bob loves to listen to podcasts. It's Spotify, check. He loves to take the tube. It's out of home, check. Right. So as our planning teams go and build these things out, right, it's pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have 2 sets of segmentations, you're going to spend twice as much money trying to go after, a similar audience. Bob's probably a closet gamer. And he might not even be a closet gamer. He might just be a full-fledged out gamer. And so it's not just looking at your traditional space. So going back to your original question around, is it hard? Yes, it's hard. However, it's pretty clear once you look at time spent and start to build the segmentations right. So then you kind of back up one step. It's okay, so that means we need to integrate gaming data into our segmentation creation. And once that's done, then we can be smarter about how we go and plan those things out. And that requires, again, I sound like a broken record, which is an integrated gaming strategy. If it's separate, it's going to end up costing twice or more to get into a thing. And you'll have a CMO come in and be I'll pick on Monster a little bit. There's CMOs going to come in and be we need to work with Call of Duty. It's great. Go get it. And they're how much is it? $1 billion, right? And they're great, let's do it. We have to do this. The reality is, if you can get this further ahead, you can get it. The further upstream you can get to building it all out, then you can make really informed decisions about your segmentation, which then you can go make really informed decisions about gaming. So I think it's really important that we kind of take a step back. What I just described is actually could be true for anything: health, beauty, fashion, any sort of vertical. And then the activity, whether it's creators, UGC or athletes or whatever, there's all the other offshoots. Your segments just need to be really smart and thoughtful, and they need to make sense. They need to tie to a strategy. And if it doesn't, then it's even more difficult. That's the hard part, right? Is making sure that everybody knows that. And so at a holdco with 70,000 people, it becomes, part of the job to actually be an educator more than anything. Like I joke around with you, but like I feel like I'm an ambassador to the industry almost, because we're constantly trying to like do more around just like what it means to be an effective marketer in this space. So not maybe the way you were thinking I was going to answer the question, but yeah, you can do anything. Do you want to do influencers? Sure. Do you want to have a really cool out-of-home campaign? Yes. Do you want to go and integrate your show, integrate with a show? Great. Roblox is a platform. Fortnite is a platform. Minecraft is a platform. To do gaming things, you don't need to be in actual games, right? Like one of the best campaigns I've ever seen was actually with Oreo and Mario Brothers, and they were celebrating this anniversary, and it was just Oreos kind of dropping down in the Mario world. I'll send it to you. You can put it in the in the corner.
100%.
Yeah. Oreos dropping down, and it was to the Mario Brothers theme, and it's just Oreos falling through the Mario universe. It's not in a game. It's not necessarily direct game spend.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily, whatever. The creative itself was featured in gaming, and it hit the proper segmentations. So I think that media plan included Twitch and YouTube and stuff kind of coincidentally, but it wasn't created for that. It was created for traditional. It was created for traditional use on social and stuff.
And do you think that that's perhaps easier for traditional marketers to understand, just because it goes back into some of the work that they've done before and brings up the whole flashy, we have to be present in gaming aspect of whether that's via culture or whether that's via out of home or traditional digital non-in-game interactions? Do you think that's easier for them to understand and probably start testing the waters with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's super fair, right? I also just think inherently going deep into that, example, like Nintendo is just a really great baseline because a lot of people have touched the Nintendo IP, right? Like Nintendo has, completely impacted culture, both in its games and, hardware and software and, television and film and merchandise and licensing, like, and the kind of Japan, factor, like it's just completely integrated in. I mean, I think when they did like this stock surveys around like the top 5 like known entities, like Mario hits on it, has for the last 20 years.
Well, yeah, like Mario can be sort of a placeholder for gaming. Sometimes it is a placeholder for gaming.
Definitely. It's really on Dex. It's like you need to strive gaming. Slide 1 is always a picture of Mario, right? It's easy. It's the easiest. It's a given, right? Yeah, it's really fun.
But would you say that, talking about the Oreo and Nintendo kind of crossover, it worked because the Oreo team clearly understood the culture and the kind of mechanics behind the game, so they could, it wasn't, fully diving in at the deep end necessarily, but because they understood that element of it, they could get involved in a way that really made sense. And do you think there's probably an aspect where if you don't understand that culture of a game, of the community built around a game, that it's a bit of a minefield, and there's probably more ways to get it wrong than right? Or how important is it to understand the culture built around an IP or a game?
I mean, it's super important, right? And like we talk about the different kind of levels of, I'll be kind of cheeky, but like gaminess, right? We do that with clients all the time. Like, and I think, we talk about blood red violence versus like green blood violence. And you talk about, again, Mario versus Lara Croft and right. So just like there's a spectrum of, again, I try and make it as simple. And this is, I'll pretend you're a client. I literally do the same thing. It's like you can advertise in Good Housekeeping or Playboy, right? And there's a difference. And so being really smart about that is critically important. Same thing with working with gaming and gaming IP, right? Whereas like, one of the best, I think, probably promotions maybe in the history of the video game industry was Minecraft. So Minecraft and McDonald's teamed up, on the Minecraft movie, right? McDonald's sales went up. Minecraft movie was, best in box office. And then the Minecraft game went up. So that was like a win-win-win. So anyone kind of associated with that saw that rising tide raise. But the big winner of all that is, McDonald's. Like globally, McDonald's sales, I mean, hopefully McDonald's is not on the podcast next, but like McDonald's sale, they have not been doing a great job, right? They've done 2 things. 2 lifelines have happened in the past 6 months. One is that partnership with Minecraft. And the second is, I don't know if you've seen their new advertising, It's fantastic, right? It's all gaming related. It's all like quests related, and it's all gamified themes.
That's on the advertising, or is that an actual?
That's above the line television running during Premier League football, like above the line media spend.
And is there any interactive part of that campaign?
I think on their digital side. So I think they run a similar campaign on, like, again, Twitch's, YouTube's Kicks. I think they probably do the same. I don't know. They would be a great guest. I'll come back. Yeah. I would love to just pepper them with questions. But the reality is, I think a lot of it was we need some wins. Like, how do we get wins? Let's look at our segmentation really quick. Who plays games of our segmentation? Like, newsflash, everyone, right? So it's like, I think for them, it was really an easy win for them. And then they had that they could tip the cap to Minecraft and say, this promotion worked. Right, Microsoft went in and Mojang went all in on it. Right, the movie team went all in on it, and Jack Black was almost synonymous with McDonald's, not just the Minecraft side of things. And so, pretty interesting to see that type of collaboration.
So, if you were to say the opposite, right, talk about a little bit of the challenges and difficulties. The concerns that one marketer, advertiser needs to have when going into gaming and gaming culture per se, right? Because as you were saying, you got to need to understand the gaming culture or the IP culture. What are some of the pitfalls that you might trip over if you don't, or if you aren't familiar, or if you don't have someone like Dentsu advising you?
Yeah, I mean, let's take off our corporate hats for a second. Like, I'm a dad and husband first, right? And so the biggest one is brand safety. Like, let's just really call it what it is. It's really hard. Again, not just for gaming, for all of advertising, right? And for all of social media, right? It's never been easier to get your hands on a direct connection to someone literally around the world at any moment's notice. Gaming is the champion for that. I've been playing with my friends, I've been playing online with my friends for over 10 years, right? That far exceeds the technology that, WhatsApp's doing in creating now, right? So I think when you start to piece together how, like, maybe the responsibility we have as an industry. So that's not just media, that's kind of everyone. You're seeing these changes kind of, some of them are slow and some of them are actually quite rapid. I think the Premier League's stance on betting is another good example, right? Like, they're outlawing shirts. I think 9 of the 20 Premier League clubs have betting front of kit, right? Like way in your face. And so as you start to think about that responsibility, I think brand safety is huge. How are you advertising in a super smart and effective way? Gaming falls victim to the same things that, all the other platforms did as well. I mean, when Facebook came out of the gate and when Twitter came out of the gate, there was major problems in brand safety, right? And so, Roblox kind of gets beat up every once in a while in the press because, they're trying to push this thing forward. And they're having a hard time in some cases making, dodging some of those headlines. And so I think they've got a great team in place to kind of do it. But again, similar to sport, you have to put those checks in place and you have to go and have really smart people in those spaces helping you. Again, that's not just us at Dentsu, that's all agencies. I mean, to be really fair, there's a lot of really, really good agencies in gaming, right? Especially, around like the major hubs in New York and London and Tokyo. Like, you have excellent feedback that you can solicit. Most people will do it for free, right? As long as you can give them your other parts of the business. Like, but we all are kind of parents. We're all kind of partners. We all want that moving forward. I think the misnomer that gaming is bad is bullshit. Like, it's not true. And so, like, we need to be better about that and making sure that we're bringing the right projects forward and the right brands and the right things and kind of pushing the bad actors out and really putting good programs forward that are age appropriate based on what, again, that brief is.
You're also gamers, which means that you also want to be, in some way, shape, or form, play the game with as much entertainment value as you can. Yeah. And certainly some of these integrations, some of these partnerships can add to the value of the game, right? Yep. Not everything is effectively done out of a principle of, I want to extract something from that platform. Sometimes you're just adding. And I think a good shift in that came through Fortnite, right? Yep. Who has been very much a proponent and certainly a big flag bearer of how to do integrations in a way that it adds value to the platform, that in some way, shape, or form, the players are sort of expecting and sort of anxious about what might come next. What is going to be this season's, this new releases partnership that I can be part of and integrated in, right?
Yeah,
The Simpsons stuff is incredible.
Totally. But
Is that your avatar?
But the Simpsons thing is a great example, right? The Simpsons thing, my kids have no idea who the Simpsons are. They've seen t-shirts and keychains. We've never let them watch the Simpsons ever, right? Not once.
I used to live playing Hit and Run. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. But like again, the generation, they don't know. It's actually kind of hard to watch the Simpsons, just to be super clear, right? It's for kids. It's they watch clips on like YouTube and TikTok and Snap, right? Like, so for them to see this and like my, even twice removed, my youngest knows who Bart Simpson is. That's crazy. That's nuts. And I think to your point, like it's really cool to see. It's also a responsibility and to make sure that IP kind of upholds and make sure that it makes sense. And I think the teams, all of them involved, I think the Simpsons will probably go down as one of the most successful seasons they've had. Because it's just, you're right. It's so much fun. It's great. It's amazing. And like they've done everything. There's literally everything. Power Rangers and musicians and all these different stuff. But I think Simpsons really hits. It's like a nostalgia podcast. It's like, it just hits.
Yeah,
Slaps.
it is, but it's probably, The Simpsons is multi-generational. Like there's a ton of folks, no matter your age, background, you have watched or engaged with The Simpsons. But again, no matter how valuable or well-known the IP is, you still need to introduce it to a new generation. And games is becoming that medium where, early on you can build that awareness and hopefully get them towards fandom. But it does require, this getting in front of them. If you're not visible, you're nowhere to some degree. I think that's, a challenge that sports has is that, you're behind a paywall for a lot of the content. There was a report where fandoms are built by 14. So how important is games in terms of as a channel to build awareness first of your IP, but then also how, it's coming back to that transmedia kind of conversation, how are you then driving them from there to core channels, let's say?
Yeah, I try to just kind of keep it simple, right? It's like if there's acquisition and retention, and that's like the primary focus of marketing. Like, you really had to like distill marketing down, right? Acquisition and retention. Like fandom is it's incredibly expensive to acquire new fans. It's incredibly inexpensive to keep them, right? Because you can do things that are a fraction of the cost because effectively they're already there, right? And like I think that's the big marketing kind of conundrum, if you will. I think with gaming though, what we've seen is you can there's like for lack of a better term, there's portals into these like vast worlds of call it micro fandoms, right? And I think Fortnite does it. It's the poster child for that. But Roblox is maybe even kind of the kind of little brother that's catching up, which is like it's a huge portal. And then when you kind of layer on UGC, like really, if you had the Roblox team on here again, you could go through and be like, do you consider Roblox a game? Right? I bet you would say, no, we're not. We're tools, right?
Well, legally, they've said no.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's right. They're a set of tools. They're not necessarily like a game and a platform. Where on the flip side, GTA is like, now they're a game, but they, shocker, they're going to be the next platform, I believe. And they're going to be a set of tools and they're going to be creating, and the content that's created on, GTA Online and the stuff on YouTube, like it's still one of the most important pieces of content for all those streaming platforms. Yeah.
I blamed you for moving the GTA date the first time. I haven't got an excuse for the second one now.
I think I made a bet actually, didn't I?
You might have done. So I'm not.
We need to go back and check the tape on that.
What was the bet?
Oh, I thought they were going to push. Yeah. I thought they were, but I don't. Oh man, everyone thinks of this as again. I'm going to get myself probably in some hot water here. Don't ship stuff that sucks. Like I think that's just like, why would you do that? Now, they're a public company, so they have to, and they got revenue recognition issues and all these different things. Like, but if a game sucks, it's not worth getting crucified over. And like, it's never been more expensive to make games, but it's also never been easier to make games. Dave the Diver or whatever that game was, like one of the most successful games ever. And it was like a dude, right? That then they doubled the team size to 2, right? And then they were just printing money. Like it's crazy.
I think it's an interesting thing because if we talk around UGC and Roblox, like it's an interesting platform for kind of incubating new IP to some degree, right? Like how can you build a game, get it out there, see if it resonates?
Yeah.
You can do it cheaper, quicker than ever before.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing like, really popular games. There's Grow a Garden, there's Jailbreak, that are now being adapted into films as well.
Totally.
And it's kind of like, where are you finding this next generation of IP that is going to cross over into entertainment or is going to, attract new audiences? And it does feel like UGC platforms are that test bed for people to do it quickly, cheaply, but then be able to find out whether it does resonate. And then you put all of the kind of, support around it to help it grow.
Yeah. I mean, but go back to like acquisition and retention, right? So if you look at I don't know if this is true or not. I have read somewhere that Expedition 33 is going to be like the next like show that'll be greenlit. It'll be a multi-episodic, crazy thing, right? A massively successful game. They're going to have a TV show. I suspect that will be, successful if and when it launches. But a different strategy is looking at what Riot's done, right? You look at Arcane, and like Arcane is a love letter. Interestingly, though, it has brought more people into the universe. Like, yes, people that play, watch, right? For sure. That's like a box tick. But some people don't even know. I met someone who didn't even know it was a video game IP.
Yeah.
Like that is like Last of Us. Same thing, right? One of the most successful shows that HBO has ever done, ever, right? Some people don't even know it's a video game. And so when you talk about acquisition, like that is cheap acquisition. Like, spending even $100 million on a show, which again, there's rumors that, some of these shows are spending that much money to get these shows on programs on Netflix. That's actually pretty cheap. And if you're trying to bring, hundreds of millions of people into your universes. And so you can look at Marvel as a little bit of a playbook on that of like, growing the Marvel universe versus going deeper into the lore. Like those arguments play true, but with video games, it's great because in most cases, there's not really the established, I'll call it the finite lore that you can't change to kind of go and then, move on. Like Minecraft is a great example. You can take that any direction you possibly want, and it's wide open for business. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. No Roblox movies yet, though. Interestingly,
it's going to be a matter of time. Literally.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few things in production.
Yeah, I mean, because you said it yourself. It's such an easy way for things to be IP to be discovered, and this is ultimately down to the social inherent features of a platform like Roblox, which is why the most prevalent games of the last few years, months, have been those which rely very exclusively on features and capabilities that other traditional games cannot because they're not on a social platform. I'm very curious about what's going to happen with GTA 6. I think everyone is.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, if you were like like industry insider, so we like hear little rumors and you hear like stuff. I think the reality is, if they're not ready to ship the game, they're not going to. Like they've invested at this point. Like what's the term? What's a penny on a pound? Right? We're not going to be in a situation where they're going to ship something that's like incomplete. They might scale things back a little bit, but they need to ship ready. It needs to be like a gold disc, ready to go, rocking like experience. Otherwise, I mean, they'll get crucified. They spend so much money.
But I'm specifically curious about how much of this latest version of what's happening on Roblox, specifically on Roblox, the social features, is someone like Rockstar going to adapt for GTA 6?
Oh, yeah.
Because we all know that there's obviously going to be UGC elements to it, but how far are they going to go down to the UGC aspect? Are they going to be more Fortnite-like, which of course has had a transition through the process, or are they going to go full on Roblox and beyond so far?
I mean, if you go through like the chronology of video game, call it just launches, and you look at what GTA has done in the past, like, and you start and like really get a pad of paper out and write down like, oh, this looks pretty similar, right? they've done a lot of this stuff before, right? They've done little cheats and tests and like the way it shows up. Like, I definitely, I mean, it's got to be driven by UGC. Their success will be driven on the like mass popularity. But the people that are still playing, I mean, it's mental. GTA 5 still comes up on top 10 lists everywhere. And so I agree.
And it's a lot of it because of the RP services and the online one.
Yeah. I'm super stoked. I'm very excited. I don't get very excited about you like working in the industry, you come like desensitized to like product launches and things like that, especially if you've ever worked on like an annualized title. You're like, oh, another one. Another one. Like every September, this feeling's gonna come to the same. I am really excited for GTA. I think it's gonna be a really good game.
Yeah.
All accounts that I've heard from people that I know that work there have just said it's gonna be just mind blowing. And the assets themselves, they've already taken some pretty great strides in the marketing side. So yeah, doesn't matter when it launches, it'll be my most anticipated.
No, it's going to suck the oxygen from absolutely everything until it does, though. And I think that's a really hard thing for the rest of the ecosystem to kind of navigate, because it's like you cannot be near when they're going to be launching, because whether it's a film or game or whatever, everyone's kind of their money or whatever they're going to be spending is going to be on GTA.
Well, yeah, and in a world of like wallet share and time share, as you start to like kind of cut up how you fill your time, like it's going to hit both. And so there are very few things that can do that. And yeah, I agree. Them moving is really probably screwed up a lot of media plans as well.
Oh, yeah.
like mental changes, which sucks. That's never great for anyone. Yeah. But there's some free or reduced price advertising that'll be available, I'm sure.
And it's funny that you said whether it's a movie or a TV show. So it's not just games that are planning it around, because let's face it, Red Dead Redemption 2 was, I think, still the biggest entertainment launch of all time of any entertainment product. So we expect GTA 6 to be the same and topping it.
Yeah. It'll be, I think the other kind of wacky thing that you're going to see is, like you'll see, because everything being on linear television is really easy because you can kind of just measure it as such. But now, like the proliferated world of apps, right? You're going to see app usage dramatically decrease. And I think it'll be interesting to see the ones that don't. Like, how does an NFL perform versus how does like the Premier League perform? Like, if you can get like a 60, 90 minute window, like you're probably in a better spot. So like cutting content as a plan, it probably makes a lot of sense. Whereas NFL, I mean, geez, I watched it. Couldn't sleep last night for some reason, and my flipped on an NFL game. I'm like, oh man, this thing is just so long. And when you're like, I've lived here in London for 4 years, and so like I don't get to watch many NFL games. And when you do, you're just exhausted. You're just like, oh my Lord, this thing is just continuing to go. And I'm a big 49er fan and have been since I was very young. My fandom has switched slightly into different allegiances, and so it's tough. It's a tough one.
Obviously, we had the NFL at the show in the summer, and they've been one of the most active on Roblox for a long, long time now. Yeah. And I guess for them, it's, as you say, I guess your fandom changes, but for them, trying to engage and educate a new audience on what American football is, and then the teams and the rules and whatever else, but do it in a way that, is quick and, doesn't, captures their attention. I think it's a really tricky thing to do. Obviously, they've been involved in the space for so long now that they started with their own experiences. Now they're kind of pushing more integration stuff. And I guess like
they did the concert.
Exactly. But I guess you need to have a variety of touch points is kind of what I'm trying to say to be able to attract that wide range of audience like you were talking about. Put your hand up if you're a gamer, and then you explain it more, and more people are gamers than they actually think they are.
Totally.
Watching Arcane, people don't even know what the actual game IP is, but they like the series. So it's more thinking around like you need to have a strategy, or my question is, do you think that there needs to be a strategy for that hardcore gamer that loves the IP or the sport or whatever, or the brand, versus perhaps the kind of more kind of casual kind of gamer or person that just comes across the content or the sport or whatever, or do you think there's a midpoint where you can hit all those kind of areas?
I mean, it's really hard because I think everyone wants to have a global strategy, and that it's like one just magic bullet for like, and it just doesn't, like, using the NFL as the example, right? The NFL's charter in Europe is totally different than the NFL's charter in the US, right? And so when you like look at those two things, like it's really difficult. I mean, when we first moved here, some kids were like, "Hey, you want to go outside and play NFL?" Right? You don't. That's that's a weird. That's a kind of a weird kind of mind fuck, right? When you're trying to like figure that out, because I would say that like let's go throw the football, right? The football, right? And I think so. It's kind of a weird like mentality. Look like Honor of Kings, right? Honor of Kings just sold out. Was it 60 or 70,000 people? Some crazy thing. Like geographically, these problems change, which is why I kind of go back to like the core principles of like marketing. You need to have really good strategies and like multifaceted international enterprise organizations. Their marketing plans all work fairly similar. Like Dentsu's similar, right? You have regional plans that kind of roll into kind of a global strategy. And the kind of the global team's job is to kind of make sure no one's doing too much or too little and like piecing all that stuff together. And I think, that's a really interesting thing with gaming because it resonates differently in different places. So like the Super Mario Brothers movie, as an example, performed crazy well internationally. Still did amazing and like again top tens right in the US, but it was faster in Europe and so or in Asia. And so again, it really comes down to having just a really clear vision and plan in your strategy so that you can go through and push those strategies down to the markets and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. The markets then go through and say, hey, great, let us tell you about your market. Bring those plans back up into this kind of global plan because each group each region has completely different, like not just geography, but it's not even localization. It's like regionalization, then localization, then culturalization, sometimes even within that. And so I think, again, gaming can be that language across all of those things. Fortunately, it's kind of like math, right? It's just such a known, you can always talk math with somebody because it makes sense. You can sort it out. I think we were talking about before this, like Super Mario or Mario and Luigi actually transcend language. Yeah. And I think that's like a really valuable kind of key piece of info as we're developing integrated strategies for for brands and for companies and fans alike.
So maybe just to kind of round out a bit, talking about that integrated strategy, if you were a CMO that was kind of thinking about games, what would be your kind of play-by-play? So, where would you be looking? Is it reallocating spend? Is it finding more spend? Like, what would your kind of first step be to kind of get the ball rolling? And maybe it's more kind of an internal kind of conversation to get buy-in of first off.
Yeah.
But kind of what does that, what do those steps look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely internal conversation. I think one of the biggest challenges that marketers face is kind of looking at the enterprise structure of an organization, right? You have product marketers that are trying to bring something to market. You've got the, dev teams or product teams building it. You've got the product marketers trying to like build it up. They submit the marketing budgets up into like a CMO function, right? And nowadays, CMO and CRO are effectively the same, right? They're kind of commingled, perhaps embedded, but typically you have a CMO that's responsible for revenue. It's also responsible for media. And so what takes place is you have these plans being built. And while the plans are being built, all the crazy shit that people want to work on, the innovation stuff, some of the gaming gets lumped into that. Something new gets lumped, into this. It's kind of the first thing to go into a plan, but it's also usually the first thing to get cut. And so I think it's so important to create a segmentation that's inclusive of gaming is that you can't really cut a segmentation. You can't, going back to our buddy Bob, you can't pretend that Bob doesn't game. And I think no CMO literally in the world can argue with a really dialed in segmentation. You can say you don't want Bob, but you can't say that Bob doesn't listen to music and Bob doesn't watch movies and Bob doesn't watch sport and play games. And so when you go and build those segmentations out, I think the foundational level is making sure you have the right strategy integrated into your like overall marketing mix. I think that's just clearly number one. Now, the second step of that is again, slightly controversial here. I'm going to sit up in my seat. I don't think people should be test and learning anymore. I think test and learning is done, right? If you test and learn, it means you're going to be in second place because there's enough companies now that are smart enough, at least in gaming, that you're going to get left behind. Now, if your brand's okay with that, if you're an evergreen brand that doesn't necessarily have a cycle and you're just kind of annually on, you could make the case that you wouldn't, that's fine. You can test, learn, dabble into it. I think generally though, the times for testing and learning are done. There's enough case studies. I can prove it. Literally, I can sit down with a CMO and say, hey, here are 10 times in which you've done something that has either raised awareness, all along the funnel, by the way, top of the funnel, just, super fluffy, airy, all the way down to actual literal conversion. We have case studies for everything. Everybody in the industry has case studies for those things. So to go then and test and learn, I just, the problem is that people just end up testing. This is my, again, hot take. Most people, they do a lot of testing and absolutely no learning. And then when they don't like the results of the test, they're not learning, they're just testing and canceling. And that's just so stupid. It just doesn't make sense, right? And again, if you have a finite amount of resources, look at the spend. Look at the whole thing. Are your segmentation so smart that you're telling me that 240 billion people in infinity hours of engagement are wrong? Like the answer to that question is no, right? They're not wrong. It's just around making sure you have the right plans in place to go and do it. So like I don't blame CMOs, by the way, for not being in. This is actually something we don't really ever talk about. I don't blame CMOs. I blame everyone else under them. I blame VPs of marketing, director of marketing, agencies, people like me for not doing a better job saying, here are the facts. The facts are bam, bam, bam. This is how it works. Bam, bam, bam. We need to integrate this in. And then bam, bam, bam. We need to not cut it, double down, not test and learn because everyone else, that path is already paved. And so I think that's the message. Now, whether you're, a crayon company or you're an auto manufacturer in a really hard, if you're an electric vehicle manufacturer in Saudi, right? 2 clients. It doesn't matter. Everything I just said holds true. You need to have the incredibly smart segmentation. And if your segmentation isn't smart, then you shouldn't be testing and learning, right? You shouldn't be spending any money in gaming. And I'd extend that to sports, entertainment as well. If you don't have this stuff built in, you shouldn't be doing it. And don't fake it. Like everyone says, oh, my CMO, you hear this literally all the time. My CMO came into my office and said, we're going to go do X, whether it's, sponsor a team, perimeter boards, whatever it is, NASCAR, like whatever the thing is, right? That's just lazy marketing. And it's just lazy marketing. If you get smart, you'll realize that gaming is actually an incredible place to be. And you can prove it out. That doesn't mean you should be pulling from other places necessarily. It just should be spending smarter. That's our rally cry. That's how we show up.
I guess if you don't commit, no matter the medium or channel, you're not going to get the full benefits from it. So
yeah, I mean, I heard of a company, again, not going to throw anybody under the bus here, but there was a company that was like testing and learning in out of home. Right, out of home is fairly traditional. Now, there's been some super cool advancement in like kind of AR and spatial stuff, and the QR code, who saw its resurgence in COVID, somehow survived as the champion of COVID. It was the QR code. But like there's been some great stuff in out of home. But to test and learn in out of home is silly. You literally can count the feet that go past the thing. Gaming is the same. We have an overabundance of data in gaming. So I think that's like it's just that argument is just faulty in my mind, and it's just lazy marketing.
All right, folks, you heard it. Amazing, Brent. Thanks so much, Tiago. Thank you for coming in for Jay, and thank you everyone for listening or watching. And we'll see you for the next one.